Hi, everybody. Andrew Champagne alongside the Oracle of Ozone Park, JD Fox, for this week's edition of Champagne and JD. Going to be a really, really big show this week. We're going across a couple of different continents. We'll look at the Arkansas Derby Day program on Saturday at Oaklawn Park. And much to JD's delight, we're going to go down to Australia, and we will be men at work as we look at the championships at Royal Randwick. We will give you quaddies for races 7 through 10 of the Friday night program here in the United States. However, before we get started, we want to send a special word of encouragement to Nancy Holthus, who was going to join us for this week's show. Unfortunately, a family matter kept her away from the show. Really hope everything is okay, and hoping that we can get Nancy on this show at some point soon. I have no doubt that we will. Our friends at Indiana Grand are doing a lot of really exciting things, including a few that we'll get to in just a couple of moments. That's called foreshadowing, kids. But we're going to lead off this show by doing something completely different. JD, you're going to take a victory lap. This might be a first. I believe our studio audience is going wild with applause. On a serious note, this is one of the best single race handicapping jobs I have ever seen. You had Bourbonic, who, as you can see on our brand new swanky graphics down below, won the Wood Memorial at odds of 72 to 1.
Yeah, it's sometimes you see the ball well and you see that things are going to set up, and they certainly did. Made up ground in the last Parks allowance. I didn't really touch on that in the Twitter video just because there's almost only so much time. I wanted to show the last one at Aqueduct, but the amount of ground that was made up at Parks in the allowance event last up was also something to factor in, given that that was a sloppy speed bias track that day. Nobody was making up ground. The only horse that made up ground that entire card was Bourbonic, and what a ride by Kendrick Carmouche. Really gave that horse the best chance to win and saw a new gear. And one of the things that even surprised me a little bit, and it may have even surprised Kendrick, is as I posted in the video I posted on Twitter, I didn't mention this on the show, but went left-handed every single time down the lane in Aqueduct in the last victory, got up by a nose. You will see at the 16th pole, he goes right for the first time on this horse, and this horse took off like a quarter horse to go from last to first in the blink of an eye. And it was a pretty good day in the Fox household after I figured out that Bourbonic actually had won.
I bet.
Which you have to process that.
Yeah, you
mentally.
Do. You go, wait, what? That's a thing that actually happened? He paid what? And I had it? Holy crap! But on a serious note, JD, hell of a call by you on a big race at Aqueduct on Saturday, the Wood Memorial. Next up for Bourbonic, likely the Kentucky Derby. And speaking of the Kentucky Derby, we're going to move on to analyzing the Kentucky Derby Trail. Some big news coming this week in that greatest honor, the winner of a couple of preps down in Florida, who was third in the Florida Derby, and a horse that I still liked a fair bit because I thought the Florida Derby was more of an education spot than anything else, will not run in the Kentucky Derby. He's getting 60 days off, so obviously the first Saturday in May, no longer in the equation for the Shug McGahee trainee. However, still a number of very good horses set to go postward for the first Saturday in May's flagship race, the Kentucky Derby. And JD, just judging by the horse that you picked in this swanky graphic down here, I'm guessing you like Essential Quality just a little bit.
I do here in this spot. And I'm going to preface this, however, by saying that I definitely think this year is going to be a case where it's either going to be the first or second choice in the betting, or it's going to be somebody out of complete left field. Because I could see really race shape is going to be huge here. I don't see a runaway speed horse. I see a lot of tactical speed that is lone speed right now. I don't see a horse that wants to be on the front end. And this may be the first Derby in a while where I feel strongly about that. I don't know about you, Andrew, but I see a lot of tactical speed. I don't see that pure speed horse. And I could see somebody robbing this on the front end that shows speed that we may not have seen before, or everybody trying to go for speed and some closer finally breaking the closer's curse at Churchill in the first Saturday in May and actually closing ground in this race.
Yeah, I like Essential Quality as well, simply from a betting perspective. Essential Quality has done absolutely nothing wrong. This is last year's 2-year-old champion. He's going to be undefeated going into the Run for the Roses, and he, more likely than not, won't be the favorite. Process that for a little bit. Now, you can look ahead a little bit and figure out what JD and I think about what's going to happen in the Arkansas Derby this Saturday and a horse that may be in line for a monster performance for a big-name trainer. But if that horse is 9-5 and Essential Quality is 5-2, doesn't 5-2 sound like an overlay? I sure think it does. And in a 20-horse field, I think we'll absolutely get that, maybe a tick or two higher. The other horse that I think you got to keep an eye on, and JD, you're going to roll your eyes when I tell you this, because this is a horse that I think is only going to get better as the distances get longer. It's the horse that ran third in this race down here. It's the horse that broke JD's heart in the El Camino Real Derby running down to Philly that he liked a fair bit. Rombauer. I think Rombauer is going to relish the added distance if he goes in the Kentucky Derby. Remember, he has an all-expenses-paid berth to the Preakness 2 weeks later, so they're not necessarily married to the idea of going in Kentucky if they don't have to. If they do, I think he's a horse you have to use at least underneath, and specifically, if he runs in the Belmont going 1.5 miles, I think he wins, and I think he wins at a really, really big price. So we'll see what happens moving forward. We're obviously not done with the Kentucky Derby preps. In addition to the Arkansas Derby, there's also the Lexington at Keeneland, which boasts 20 points to the winner, and that may be enough to push a horse or two over the hump and into the starting gate on the first Saturday in May. So there's a lot to decipher going forward still, even though we're less than a month away from one of horse racing's biggest days. Speaking of big days, we're going to transition and give some of our friends at Indiana Grand a little bit of love. Their opening day is on Tuesday. And JD, I know you're really excited for what you've spotlighted. What are they doing with the drone?
So they are going to be using a drone for all of the races at Indiana Grand. You're going to have an overhead view on the replays. And basically, I believe they're even going to have, and this is my understanding, and again, I could be completely wrong here, but you generally have the pan view and the head-on. I believe a drone-specific view of each race will be available on their website as well. If not, it's going to be an integral part of the replays, and you're going to get some angles that you only ever see on big days. And you think about the types of racing that you have at Indiana Grand. We're talking multiple surfaces. We're talking multiple breeds. You're going to get some viewpoints that you've never seen before. I think a drone footage of a quarter horse race is going to be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, and Indiana Grand's product has come such a long way, and credit is due to a lot of really good people. Eric Hellstrom does a tremendous job, runs a very tight ship. We have had a number of Indiana Grand's people on our show before. Of course, Rachel McLaughlin has filled in for me a couple of times. We think the world of her. We think the world of Bill Downs, who's their track announcer. We, of course, think the world of Nancy Holtis, who we were excited to have coming on. And again, we just really hope all is well in the Holtis household, making sure that everything is not only hunky, but Dory as well. So hopefully everything is okay, and looking forward to seeing some top-class racing in the middle of the week from Shelbyville, Indiana, and a lot of trainers that you'll recognize will have big presences at this meet. You'll see Brad Cox runners. You'll see Steve Asmussen runners. You'll see a lot of barns that have strings pretty much everywhere. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited. And by the way, if you're in the area, Rachel McLaughlin hosts a weekly wrestling trivia night every Thursday at the bar a couple blocks down from the racetrack. So if you're in town, go there, tell her I sent you. You won't be sorry. but you're probably going to want an ice pack or a Band-Aid or something because she will hit you with her purse or anything blunt that she happens to be holding in her hand at that point. Hi, Rachel. How you doing? Hope all is well.
Or she'll just save it all for Andrew. We'll see. But no, excited.
I don't have plans to go to Indiana at any point anytime soon unless they want to fly me out. Indiana Grand, if you want to fly me out, I work reasonably cheap. I will, however, have a job that I am starting on Monday. More on that in the final thoughts section. But if you want to fly me out for a weekend? By all means, I'm pretty sure I can find a way to get there from the Bay Area. So putting that out there and being my usual cheap shilling self, we're now going to dive into the handicapping side of things. We've got a couple of different pick four sequences that we're going to focus on, one in North America, one in Australia. We'll start off with the Arkansas Derby Day program at Oaklawn Park, and that's not a typo down below. 13 races in Hot Springs, Arkansas on Saturday, headlined by the Arkansas Derby for 3-year-olds. That race headlined by a potential Kentucky Derby favorite. The late pick 4 starts in race number 10, ends in race number 13, and even though it might get a little bit chalky, I think there's potential for a nice score based on what we're seeing in the payoff leg. We'll get there. Now, race number 10 is an allowance optional claiming event. 3-year-olds will go 6 furlongs in here. We've got a field of 9 signed on. The morning line favorite is number 7, Mighty Mischief, who looked really good last time out in beating maidens in a rich race here at Oaklawn Park. Remember, the purses are gigantic. That's part of the appeal. This one led every step of the way, won by 3 1/4 lengths, earned an 80 buyer speed figure. Tries winners for the first time. JD, you want me going first? Do you want to go first? How you want to do this?
You can go ahead and go first.
Okay, cool. So we're both going 4 deep in here, and I'm using Mighty Mischief, but I'll tell you what makes me a little bit nervous. Mighty Mischief on paper looks very imposing, but if Mighty Mischief is all that good, why is Steve Asmussen also entering number 3 Invincibility, who hasn't run in more than 2 months, has only won on an off-track in an off-the-turf race at Fairgrounds against the suspect group? I think that's a red flag, and for that reason, Mighty Mischief is a defensive use for me. My top selection in here is actually a little bit of a price in the form of number 5, Upstriker, who, JD, I see you've also used. Upstriker won like a very good horse in his maiden race, first time out at Ellis Park, an 81 buyer speed figure first off the rip for a trainer whose horses sometimes need a race or two to get going in the form of Ron McQuett. So they sent him to the Grade 1 Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland. He dueled with a little horse named Essential Quality that day. Wound up running 4th, beaten 9 lengths, but still 74 buyer speed figure on the stretch out in distance against really good horses. That's not bad. I'm drawing a line through the Nyquist. That race was too bad to be true, and it's safe to assume something went wrong because we haven't seen him since. And then I look at the work tab, specifically those last 2 4-furlong works, and the bullet March 28th going 4 furlongs and 47 flat. I think Upstriker is sitting on a big race. Add in first-time Lasix, add in that Joe Talamos, he's fit to ride back when he may have had some options. I think Upstriker is very live at a price. I'm encouraged, JD, that you think the same thing. I'll also use the 2 inside horses in Name Rejected and Game Day Play. Game Day Play drops down in class a little bit after running in a couple of stakes races. Name Rejected tries winners for the first time, but the form's been on an upswing since coming to Oaklawn. Needed to use that as well. 1, 2, 5, and 7 for me. JD, your thoughts?
Tchotchke, a trinket, something you might have just on a shelf or on a bookcase.
You just like saying tchotchke, don't you?
That's my top selection in this race. And you look, it's been obviously on the layoff line since October 21st. 2 wins as a 2-year-old. They kind of come with 2-year-old speed figures. Those are the speed figures you expect to see a 2-year-old early in the campaign at the maiden claiming in the $40,000 claiming level, but has done absolutely nothing wrong. Was a claim off of Asmussen for Wesley Hawley. He does well first off the claim. He does well in limited numbers on the layoff here. I just don't think this horse has done anything wrong, has been even money and 8-5 in the last 2 starts, going up to the first level allowance condition, but ran a 59 flat 5 furlong bullet work on March 26th over Oaklawn Park surface, has won at Churchill and has won at Keeneland. I don't think this horse is outclassed despite the bump up to the first level allowance condition. 2 wins on the book. So I'm 4 deep here, 1, 5, 7, and 8. And I do think that, Name Rejected obviously comes in off of that strong maiden win, but took a long time to get off the maiden ranks. What I would probably recommend doing with that horse is maybe keying in second or third place in your single race exotics, building for some chaos. If you like tchotchke like me, maybe putting them on top and, just going 8-1 cold on a nice $10 exacta. That might pay you a lot of money in this spot. Name Rejective always runs honestly, but 3 seconds and a third to go along with that 1 win. I'm 4 deep, 1, 5, 7, and 8, Andrew.
You mentioned tchotchke, and I'm intrigued by the pedigree on this one, though not necessarily going 6 furlongs. Bifrosted out of a distorted humor mare. I think this one has a little bit more stamina, and I just think that horse needs a race, but maybe one to keep in your stable mail moving forward, because that pedigree is distance, top, and bottom, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if that horse takes a big step forward going 2 turns. Now, we've got 3 horses in common and like one. You know us. That's not common for us. Don't worry, you're not watching the wrong show, and we're going to prove it as we analyze race number 11, the Grade 3 Count Fleet Sprint, and we've got a really fun field signed on here. Whitmore is the 9-5 morning line favorite. CZ Rocket, the 2-1 second choice, and some really talented sprinters signed on in here. You see Noel Parole, you see Strike Power, you see Empire of Gold, you see Mr. Jägermeister. This is a really fun field. And it's a field that, while it's maybe a little bit on the light side as far as the number of horses, as far as quality goes, JD, this is not a Grade 3. This is a Grade 2, and it may well be the best dirt sprint race in America from a quality standpoint that we see for most of the year.
Yeah, and obviously you look at the battle CZ Rocket and Whitmore had last time, and you have to think to yourself, okay, that was in the hot springs. That wasn't even a graded stake. That should have been a graded stake with the field that it drew. The sprint division has been very strong for older horses this meet at Oaklawn, and all of the big contenders seem to be in hot springs. So a very tricky field here, and I kind of waited to put the tickets up since we're doing this where both of our tickets go up simultaneously. I am not using Whitmore in this case, and I'm going to discuss this, and I hope Chance is not watching.
We got a problem here. JD's not using Whitmore. This isn't going well. He's screaming here. You're going to provide some really cutting edge insight to save yourself.
So I'm really, obviously, I'm the biggest Mr. Jägermeister fan probably in existence. So you might be shocked, Andrew, that I don't have Mr. Jägermeister on this ticket.
No, as good a horse as he is, he's outclassed here.
Yeah, and really what surprised me is he didn't get the front in that last race in the hot springs. But who will get the front in this and drew the rail is No Parole. I think there's a chance that No Parole is not going to be catchable here. On front, and obviously, tried the turf last time. I don't know what that experiment was. I mean, there's a little turf pedigree there, but going 9 starts before the first turf try, coming off of a stakes win, it was an interesting strategy going to the fairgrounds. But back along the friends in the sprint division, obviously, won the Woody Stevens last year. That was such a big performance. That's at 7. I realize we're cutting back to 6 here, and there's a difference in speed at 7 and speed at 6. But drawing the rail here, I do think No Parole has a shot to wire him. If that doesn't happen, I just think we're going to see a repeat of the last race. I think CZ Rocket at this rate has just the slight upper hand on Whitmore as both of them age. These are older sprinters. I would love for both of them to win this race. I'm rooting for both of them, but from a betting interest side, I think CZ Rocket's going to be the longer price of the 2, and I think CZ Rocket's just in a little better form right now. So I'm going 2 deep here, 1 and 6. Andrew, talk a little bit about Whitmore.
Okay, talk a little bit about one of the coolest horses in training. I think I can do that. So one of the things that I've noticed about Whitmore is he doesn't necessarily fire his best shot first off of a long layoff. Let's take a little trip back. So late 2019, he runs second in the Phoenix, beat and a half length. Next start out's in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. He runs third that day. Ran a 98 Beyer speed figure in the Phoenix, ran a 105 in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Then, in the winter of 2020, he goes to Oaklawn, runs a 100, finishing second in the King Cotton. Then runs a 104 in winning the Hot Springs, the race he just ran second in behind CZ Rocket. Whitmore goes second off the layoff here. If past experience is any indicator of future results, I think we see a better, more tuned up Whitmore in this spot. Now, that does not mean that I'm knocking CZ Rocket. The race he ran last time out was very, very good. But since then, he's shipped back to San Luis Rey and has to ship cross country again. Whitmore has stayed at Oaklawn Park. Between that and the fact that I think Whitmore moves forward second off the bench, give me Whitmore in this spot. This is a case where you have two horses that are going to take the lion's share of the money, and whatever odds difference you're going to get, I think is going to be minimal. I think the morning line men did a really nice job here with the 9-5 and 2-1. I think those two horses are going to be almost inseparable from a betting standpoint. Wouldn't be surprised if favoritism ping-pong back and forth. In those situations, my mindset, especially with pick fours that are likely to be a little bit chalky, is just to pick one and let it ride with it. So I'm riding with Whitmore here. I think Whitmore second off the bench, gets the trip he wants once again, and gets the money. You mentioned no parole. First of all, I think they tried turf against Louisiana breds just to see what they had. And also, from a timing standpoint, worst case scenario, horse comes out of it healthy. Hey, there's this race at Oaklawn Park. There's a couple of races next month on the Derby and Preakness undercards you could potentially run in. So no issue with that horse running fourth there. I do think no parole is up on the pace, but Strike Power's not going to rate. Empire of Gold's not going to rate. I think you're going to see 21 and change to the quarter, 44 to the half, and I think that sets things up for the two closers. It's just a matter of who gets the better trip. I think it's going to be Whitmore. You think it's going to be CZ Rocket. We'll see what happens. These are two classy sprinters. The one thing that we're in agreement on, this is not a grade 3. Upgrade this race immediately.
If only that were possible.
You know, I'm going to send a strongly worded letter because those always work so well, especially when they come from me. Now, moving on to race number 12. This is the Grade 1 Arkansas Derby. 3-year-olds going 1 1/8 for $1 million. And look, it's a 6-horse field. Concert Tour is even money on the morning line. I'll take the under on that. He was very impressive last time out against a number of these horses when winning the Rebel in wire-to-wire fashion. Recent bullet workout at Santa Anita, and Bob Baffert does not ship for frequent flyer miles. Concert Tour, even money on the morning line, probably 2-5 or 1-2 by post time, JD, you think?
Yeah, 1-2 is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and our tickets say it all here. I mean, I honestly, I don't even want to spend a whole heck of a lot of time diving into this race because look at what happened in the Rebel. Caddo River wanted to go early, but I just don't think was as fast as Concert Tour was. Concert Tour draws the outside here, which I really like. I think Concert Tour gets out, clears the field. I think he wins pretty easily. Now, you liked Get Her Number last time out. Pretty clearly that horse just needed the race, but even so, even if that one moves forward, he'd need to move forward in a gigantic way, I think, to catch a horse like Concert Tour in this spot, which certainly seems pretty light on early speed if Concert Tour can clear Caddo River as easily as we both think he can.
Yeah, I definitely think Get Her Number is an interesting horse down the line. I think really maturing at this stage, and we saw some learning definitely happen in the last race, and it'll be interesting to see down the line later in the season where Get Her Number ends up, because I do think 2-turn potential, speed, front runner, that all exists there. You didn't see it last time, but there's certainly something there. I'll make this statement. If Concert Tour loses, I can make as strong a case for the Dallas Stewart runner on the outside as I can anybody else, because if Concert Tour loses, it's going to be some sort of crazy race and fluke, and that is the calling card of one Dallas Stewart. So just throwing that out there.
When crazy stuff happens, Dallas Stewart usually is not far away. So we'll see what happens there. But Concert Tour, a very heavy favorite, deservedly so. And if he wins this race as impressively as we both think he will, you are likely Kentucky Derby favorite. So we'll see what happens.
The other thing I want to say here, Andrew, is Super Stock, please go back to sprinting. I think this horse has a lot of potential sprinting. Broke the maiden in a stakes race at Lone Star Sprinting and has been routing ever since. I hopefully will see the connections give up on this two-turn dream and get back to sprinting, because I think this horse could be a big contender for some of the sprints later on in the season.
Entirely possible, and we'll see what happens. Also could potentially be a nice one-turn mile type horse. He did run third in the Iroquois last fall as a 2-year-old. So we'll see what happens there. But we'll move on to race number 13, and this is a race that hits me as incredibly wide open. And I needed to spread, and I needed to go as deep as I possibly could. JD, the one opinion that I had is that the race number 4 Ardenwood and number 5 Anti-Gravity come out of, I don't think is very strong. I think that's a race that is not going to look all that great in hindsight once these horses get a couple more races under their belts. We've got another page of graphics here with just one other horse. That horse is number 11, Time Is Yours. And coincidentally, I think Time Is Yours has a big shot at a big price. I think Time Is Yours was very green last time out, definitely needed the race. Kelly Von Hemmel's horses tend to need a race or two to get going anyway, but that horse was very slow out of the gate, didn't seem like it had any idea what it was doing going down the backstretch, rallied and lost a photo for 4th behind a horse that's going to run in a 10th race. That's Mighty Mischief. So if Mighty Mischief runs well, that bodes well for Time Is Yours. I like the outside draw in a race like this, where I think he'll just be able to sit back, get over, make one run. I think Time Is Yours has a big shot at 15-1 on the morning line. And as you can see, I'm going 6 deep without using the morning line favorite and the co-second choice, Ardenwood and Anti-Gravity. I'll let one of those beat me. One of the horses that I did include was number 1 Continental Coins, 2 sprints and a stretch out for the Son of Constitution out of a Dixie Union mare. I think that's absolutely a pedigree play. Brett Calhoun's struggling at Oaklawn, 1 for 21 as of this recording. Not the kind of results we're used to seeing from him, but this is a horse that hasn't done a lot wrong going shorter, comes in off a big work on April 2nd, I think has a shot. And JD, you think he has an awful lot more than a shot. You're singling that one. I like your guts.
Yeah, really, you hit the nail on the head. I love this, 2 sprints to a route specifically for Brett Calhoun. This is a great angle, and usually this is exactly how you see it. You'll see 2 sprints at one circuit, and then you'll see the route come someplace else. He's going through the condition book. He's finding these exact spots that he wants to put this horse. Obviously, this is a big purchase for the Connections, $400,000 Keeneland September yearling purchase. And I just love I love the Constitution runners so much, and they are routers through and through. So 2 sprints to the route. Works look good. The April 2nd work going 47 and 4, third of 55 on the day at Oaklawn. I just can't get past this horse. I agree with you. I did all the video work on this race. I don't think the race that Ardenwood and Anti-Gravity coming out is going to be a big race. That just seemed, I don't know. It seemed like a lot of horses that didn't want to run past each other, that sort of thing. I know the numbers look good, but it was a very speedy track that day a couple weeks ago. So I know the buyers look good, the time form numbers look good, but watching that race, it feels like 2 different things happening. So I think really I'm taking the stand on Continental Coins, because I would probably be wanting to maybe even take an all here if I didn't. So taking the stand, have a logical choice and a logical angle with Brett Calhoun. Like you mentioned, though, he's been struggling at Oaklawn, but this is one of the better runners in his barn from a pedigree standpoint, looking to break the maiden. I'm excited here to single. And that means I have a very thrifty $4 ticket for your wagering needs. 4 by 2 by 1 by 1. Add horses you like, subtract horses, make it even cheaper if you want. Hit the repeat button several times, giving you lots of options on this $4 pick four play. And Andrew, also very economical $12 play on your part.
Yeah, and I'm trying to maximize value from Whitmore and Concert Tour. And I know there are ticket construction police out there who will say, well, shouldn't you just play a $12 double in race 11? I intend to play a double in race number 11 using those two horses. We give out pick fours on this show. That's what we do. And what I'm trying to do is extract a little bit of value from those two horses in constructing my ticket this way. If we're able to get a favorite beat in the first and or last legs, this could pay okay. Remember, Arkansas Derby Day last year was very, very good for me when I went single the favorite, spread a little bit, single the favorite, by the impossible 1 3/4 race. That was a race that was won by a $40 horse, and that late pick four came back and returned more than $300, despite two well-bred Baffert freak shows winning both divisions of the Arkansas Derby, and by my standards, winning a grade 2. So just saying, I understand the ticket construction philosophy standpoint, but this is a $12 ticket. We're not playing for a whole lot of money. We're trying to get a favorite beat at least in the last leg. And if we're able to get a second, third, or fourth choice home in race number 10, so much the better. We'll likely be covered. So $12 from me, $4 from JD. That's coming up on Saturday at Oaklawn Park. We're now going to move to the Friday night, at least in the United States, card at the championships at Royal Randwick in Australia. It is Australia A in your ADW of choice. And these are some of the best horses on the continent, JD. I know you're very excited to be able to take a look at some of these races and to give out some insights for those who may not be quite as familiar with the Australia circuit.
Yes, so this is a great card at Royal Randwick, 10 race card, 9 group stakes, and really the 10th one is a $500,000 race, country championships, where horses from smaller tracks get to come in and have fun on the big track on one of the biggest days in racing in Australia. It's a great concept. I wish there was something like it in the States. I mean, just think about Derby Day having your C tier tracks, your best horses from those tracks getting a chance to all run against each other with a big inflated purse. How much fun would that be to handicap and to have as part of a sequence? I realize some people would hate it. I think the two of us would love that.
I just seeing Welder on a big stage would be really cool. Just throwing that out there. Horses like that, they exist. Horses like, say, a Welder, like a Ben's Cat from Maryland, horses like two of my favorites growing up, Boomtowner and Golden Tent from the New York circuit that ran every 10 to 14 days like clockwork. There's a lot you could potentially do that we're not doing for any number of reasons, but that's a different conversation for a different day. Right now, we will take a look at day one of the championships at Royal Randwick. Again, Australia A in your ADW of choice. We'll kick things off with the Group 1 Australian Derby. 3-year-olds going 2,400 meters, a.k.a. a mile and a half, for those of you who can't convert from metric. We've got a big field. We've got a lot of big fields. And one thing to make note of here, if you're not familiar with Australia, 20-cent pick four denominations, so you can go a little bit deeper than you otherwise would. This a field of 16 runners. It is not the biggest field in this sequence. We'll get to that, but this a field of 3-year-olds. A lot of exciting horses in here. JD, where did you go? How did you see it?
Yeah, really, I'm going deep. I think this is a spread race. I'm going a little deeper than you, Andrew. And, of course, this is where the fun happens when you've got all of these big fields and all these super talented, super well-bred horses is I only have one of your selections, and it's my top choice. It's going to be the 16 Montefilia, who's the 16. If you guys were paying attention to the graphics, does not mean that horse is coming out of the 16 hole. This horse is actually drawn inside in the 4 position on the barrier and is the favorite right now in Australia at $3.70 in exchange wagering. And really, this horse is third up, which is big in Australia. For those of you that are not familiar, the training pattern's a little different. You're going to see very few horses that are going to be fully amped and ready to go first up. And generally speaking, they keep track of that a little more than you see in other places around the world. You see specific first up and second up numbers just to show like, hey, this horse either does really well first up, or it needs a couple races. Montefilia is obviously a horse in the career that's needed a couple starts to get going, but 10 lifetime starts coming in, 4 first and 3 third place finishes. Both races ran at Randwick and ran at Rosehill Gardens, so running in the top races, coming off of 2 Group 1s, including a good third in the Guineas at Rosehill Gardens on the 27th of March. I really think is a strong chance here, but I don't think it starts and stops there. I think there's a lot of value in this race. And I think when it comes to value, you really want to look at the 7-horse Young Werther, the New Zealand bred for Aussie Tom, as they call him. Tar Marquand will be aboard. He's obviously an Englishman. They just call him Aussie Tom because he comes in with a couple horses from Great Britain and rides them and obviously takes other mounts as well. And Young Werther is actually 5th up and has started really running well. Grade 2 Tulloch last time at Rosehill, strong third behind Yaletown, who's also in this race. And at the Valley on March 13th, and Alistair Clark ran a strong second. Grand Slam that day, ran off, one of the most impressive performances you'll see. You'll want to look at that race and realize that Young Werther was the best of the rest in what was a very strong field where Grand Slam beat the field by 6 lengths. I do think there's some value there. Right now, Young Werther, $14 in Australia. So 1, 3, 7, 8, 12, 16 in the first leg here of the quaddie. Andrew, you're going a little shorter to start.
Yeah, I'm going 3 deep in here. Montefilia looks very tough. One thing to note, and these are a couple of different little quirks in Australia that you'll see, get significant weight from the boys in here. Going 1.5 miles, that absolutely matters. You mentioned that she's 3rd up. She's a 2-time Group 1 winner. She's run well going long before. I think has a big shot, especially with that inside draw that you mentioned. The other thing to note, the weather forecast. It poured earlier this week in Australia, very heavy going, at least earlier in the week, looking like good to soft going for the Friday night card. Maybe on the softer side of that, we'll see, but you're going to want to stay tuned for that because there are a lot of horses in Australia that either run better on good going or run better on soft going. I'm going with the mindset that we're going to see a softer turf course, and that's the case with the 2 horses that I'll use other than Montefilia. Number 2, Rocket Spade, has won 3 in a row, including a Group 1-2 starts back. He's shown he can run on softer going. He's going to take a lot of money. He's probably going to be the 2nd or 3rd choice in this race. The other horse that I'll use that's a big price on the morning line. Now, morning lines in Australia, be very, very careful. In a lot of instances, they're generated by computer programs, and they're not necessarily indicative of the price you're going to see when the fields go postward. But number 6, Yaletown, certainly looks like the main speed in here, and you're telling me I might get double-digit odds on a Gay Waterhouse trainee in a big spot where that horse might get left alone on the front? Yes, please. Absolutely. Need to throw that horse on my ticket. But I think Montefilia and Rocket Spade are the class of the field, and I'll throw in Yaletown as the potential trip horse. 2, 6, and 16 for me in race number 1 of the quaddie, race number 7 at Randwick. We'll move on to race number 8. This is the TJ Smith for older horses going 6 furlongs or 1,200 meters if you're more metrically inclined. Note that we do have a scratch already. Number 10, Hot Brian Herr, who we've seen a couple of times, will not run. These, JD, are some of the best sprinters, not just in Australia, but maybe the entire world as well. These are some really, really fast horses.
Yes, as we again look at the second page here with just 1 runner in the 11 September run for Chris Waller. But yes, very, very strong runners here and world ranked runners. Nature Strip has been in the Longines world rankings several times and pretty high up in those rankings previously, and has ran into Eduardo. And Eduardo is absolutely on fire on the front end of things. And I'm actually going to single Eduardo here. Eduardo, just super impressive last time out, not facing Nature Strip, but in the Galaxy at Rosehill Gardens, going 1,100 meters, won by 3.5, pulling away from Order of Command. And obviously, Eduardo beat Nature Strip in the challenge on March 6th. That was going 1,000 meters, so going 5 furlongs, and re-rallied against Nature Strip. Nature Strip went by Eduardo. Eduardo re-rallied to win in what was considered an upset on that day. I really think Eduardo is going to really appreciate the going. We look at if right now it's heavy 8. They're anticipating it could get as good as a soft 6, but it doesn't matter for Eduardo, soft or heavy. 5-0 lifetime on either of those track conditions, and I just think this horse is going to get in a duel with Nature Strip again, and I think Eduardo is going just a little bit better than Nature Strip is currently. Obviously, Nature Strip accomplishments galore, $6 million in career earnings, multiple Group 1 wins. And you see several horses like that in this field. You've got Bivouac, obviously a long-time sprinter. I shouldn't say long-time 4-year-old, but has been in all of the big races, multimillionaire, over $5 million in earnings, multiple Group 1 winner. Just a stacked field. This is one of the big races in Australia every year, one of the most exciting races to watch. And I think Eduardo gets the job done. Obviously, you're including Eduardo, but you're going a little bit deeper, Andrew.
Yeah, this is one of those times where I'm grateful for the 20-cent minimum because I'm able to spread a little bit more. If you're using a grid system, which you can still use, Nature Strip and Eduardo would probably be my A horses. Those two seem like the horses to beat. And if either one of them fires their best shot, they're going to be pretty tough. But I certainly needed to use number 5 Masked Crusader at his likely price. That is my in case of a pace meltdown horse, because the faster they go early, the better this one's chances figure to be. This one won a Group 1 last time out, a 111 speed rating, and the speed ratings have been going up and up and up with every start this season. If that horse improves up to the 115 range, he could absolutely win this race and do so at a little bit of a price. Also, I did throw in Bivouac, though I'm a little bit concerned. The 2 starts so far this season, not quite up to his usual standard, but if he runs back to that race he ran in the Group 1 at Flemington in November, where he earned a 118 speed rating, he's got a big shot, and he goes third up, which is a big move. So I needed to go 4 deep in here, 1, 2, 3, and 5. You singled Eduardo. Wouldn't complain about Eduardo winning in the slightest, but certainly don't think it's a case where you can single and just move on. Having said that, I have a single in another race and can spread elsewhere. JD, I know you've spread in at least one other race and have another single elsewhere. So
yeah.
Different approaches to this pick 4 sequence from a structure standpoint, though it should be noted, we can both hit this.
Yes. And one thing, you should always look at the Australian market as well when you're looking at this, because they're betting on this all week. So right now, as we're recording on Thursday night, Eduardo is actually the 3rd choice in the race. Nature Strip is the favorite. Bivouac is the 2nd choice.
Okay,
it's really close.
Wow.
So Nature Strip 370, Bivouac 425, Eduardo 460.
460?
Fixed odds wagering. Yes.
460. Whoa. Okay. That's higher than I would have imagined, but okay. Not going to complain about an overlay in the slightest. And in that case, if Eduardo's the 3rd choice, Eduardo wins. That's a darn good single by you because a lot of tickets are going to go up in smoke. So good strategy on your part. And hopefully we'll both be halfway home going into a race that houses my single. This is the Grade 1 Doncaster Mile. Older horses going, you guessed it, 1 mile or 1,600 meters. We went with 1 mile in the distance here just for consistency's sake. But my personal thinking is that the horse that draws number 1, barrier 4, Mugatu, is absolutely the horse to beat in this spot. Mugatu last time out won one of the coolest races you're ever going to see, that being, JD, I know this is one of your favorites, the All-Star Mile. Now, you may be wondering, why haven't we gone back to us? Well, not only do we have another full page of entrants, but we've also got a couple of also eligibles too. This is a field of more than 20 runners, 22 to be precise. My
yes, and Ice Bath is already in. I'll go back and roll through them because I accidentally hit on the PJ Bell for a second, but the 7 Gem Song is scratched. So we will definitely see the 21 Ice Bath in this field, and Wheelhouse will be available if there's another scratch in this field. Ice Bath already taking a lot of action since going into the field, down trading at about $20 on the exchange right now, but just a whole host of horses here in one of the premier races in all of Australia, going for a purse of $2.9 million, and Andrew singling Mugatoo.
Yeah, there's 20 horses that are going to go postward. You only need one, and it's horse number 1. Mugatoo earning a 114 speed rating last time out, and that was not a fluke. This horse has danced a lot of big dances so far in his career and has won most of them, 9 of 18 lifetime. This is a horse that always seems to fire his best shot. Hugh Bowman gets the mount, and I just think this horse has everything going for him right now. Going into the All-Star Mile, you may have been allowing yourself to think, oh, maybe a mile is just a little too short for what he wants to do. Well, he put those concerns to bed with a very impressive victory over some of the most well-known horses on the continent. You've got a single somewhere, even in a pick 4 that's a 20-cent minimum. Mugatoo, to me, hits me as a very likely winner if he gets a clean trip, which I think he will. I think he's going to sit back, make one run, and pass his 19 rivals late in this race. I think Mugatoo is a single. You're using him, but you're going significantly deeper than I am, and I'm curious to know your reasoning why.
Yeah, 8 deep here. My top choice is actually going to be the 19 Moonga on 19 hole, and actually drawing a wide barrier here, drawing barrier 21. So will be the second to last horse on the outside here, which I think is one of the reasons why we're getting $8.50 right now in the Australian market. This horse would be a lot lower in odds, coming off of the win in the Rose Hill Guineas last time up. Has had an impressive campaign. 4th up, has been graded stakes place in each of the races, a 3rd in the CS Hayes, a 2nd in the Randwick Guineas, and then coming through on a soft 7 at Rose Hill and winning the Rose Hill Guineas. The other horse I want to spotlight here, as I'm going super deep, is the 6th Shout the Bar. Shout the Bar was my selection in the All-Star Mile.
You've used that horse a couple of times.
You're getting a multiple graded stakes winner that loves soft ground, and right now this horse is $51 in the Australian market. I think for Gay Waterhouse and Adrian Bott, this is one of their superstar runners who just gotten off to a bit of a slow start, and obviously didn't have it that day at the Valley. Had not raced at the Valley before, and sometimes that's one of the tracks in Australia that is definitely a horse for course. So did not go over the Moonee Valley surface very well, but had a 3rd before that at Flemington. You look at last campaign, won a Group 1 at Flemington, and has ran well at Randwick before in the past. And again, loves soft ground. So I'm taking a shot there. Think that is a horse you have to absolutely include on your ticket. In terms of other really long odds horses I feel like you have to include on your ticket, the 4 Star of the Seas, about $34 right now in Australia. Was very disappointed in the Geo Rider at Rose Hill, but ran a bang-up race in the All-Star Mile, 6th, but it's a lot better if you go back and watch it. The horse had a ton of run late, just couldn't get going early enough, was trapped behind a whole host of traffic. I don't think it beats Mugatoo that day, but gets a cleaner trip and probably finishes 2nd or 3rd in that race. And again, the value difference there between Mugatoo and the 4 Star of the Seas there is tremendous, as Mugatoo right now, the favorite in Australia at $4.55 in this gigantic field. And to have a favorite down that far shows that a lot of people like you, Andrew, are thinking Mugatoo might be a single here. But given the chaos, given the amount of horses, given the famous mile at Royal Randwick, I'm taking my chances here, going 8 deep as we head to the final leg, which again is a great sprint race for the fillies. Andrew, go ahead.
I've got a question. So one of the things you'll notice if you're looking through the past performances, which, by the way, you can download for free over at Sky Racing World. Those folks do a tremendous service. The form is easy to read, especially even if you've never seen an Australian race before. They make things really, really simple. Mo'unga is going to carry 109 pounds. Is Robbie Dolan going to make weight? That's really, really light.
Yeah, and that's one of the questions is I do think probably going to end up being overweight there. But again, that's still going to be a lot on Mugatu. I always do things in kilograms. I don't look at the weights. So Mugatu and Hugh Bowman carrying 56 kilos. And just for the comparison, Robbie Dolan carrying 49 and a half, one of a few runners here that'll be at 49 and a half based on the handicap condition, which I love handicaps. I wish we still had handicap conditions throughout the U.S. more than a couple times a year. It's one of the great things about Australian racing, and something we should mention that in the sequence, you get a mixture of everything. So obviously the previous race to this was everybody was carrying the same weight. So this, except for because it was by gender, and there's one filly, the 11 in that race. The males all carry the same weight. The fillies carry the same weight. But this is just strictly an open handicap. 3-year-olds and up, no class restriction, no sex restriction, but handicapped weight based on speed rating. So you get a horse that's got a good speed rating like Mo'unga 107, which in some of the other races you'd think, oh, that's crazy good. But in this particular case, it actually allows for one of the lower weights in this field.
Yeah, so a lot of different directions you can go in race number 9. I've chosen that race as the race where I need to take a stand, and I'm doing so because I think race number 10 is a really tricky handicapping puzzle. This is the PJ Bell Stakes, 3-year-old fillies going 1,200 meters, otherwise known as 6 furlongs. And this is a race where you're going to be able to throw a blanket over the 5 or 6 finishers that come into the wire first. It's going to be a really fun race to handicap. You can see a lot of horses drawn in here. We've got a field of 19, 18 of which in the body of the field, 1 also eligible. So this is going to be really interesting. And JD, I know when I sent my ticket over, you did a double take, and you're probably in a better position than most to explain why you did that.
Yes, Andrew has one of the longest shots I've seen this year in Australia on his ticket.
Perfect.
To give you an idea, if you wager $1, not $2, if you wager $1 on this horse, currently in Australia, you would get $220 back.
$220? It was $280 when we started. Somebody bet heavy on this horse.
Or put $5 in. I mean, hey, when you're at those odds.
Right? The horse that we're referring to is number 18, Sarouge, and I really hope I'm saying that right. But Sarouge goes second off a layoff. That race last time out did not come back all that well on speed ratings. But if you look at the 2020 form, this one has a Group 2 race at Flemington, 4th beaten 2 lengths going 7 furlongs with an 83 speed rating. That was over soft going. If that horse channels that form and is forwardly placed from the inside draw, I think Sarouge has a shot. And again, 20-cent minimums. So you're able to do this. You're able to throw in these horses that potentially present a ton of value if everything breaks correctly. And in this instance, I think Sarouge has a lot of speed, and I think Sarouge could potentially get the kind of trip she wants over the surface she wants to run on. Is that going to be enough? I don't know. But I needed to use that horse based off of the race at Flemington against a group of horses that, who knows, maybe were better than the one that she faces here going second off the bench. Now, obviously, I don't have tremendous conviction in any of the runners in here because I'm going 7 deep. This is a fascinating race where you go through and you try to either circle or draw a line through because there's just so many different directions you could potentially go in. If I was forced to make a top pick, it's probably number 2, Macrora, who will also break from barrier draw number 2. So really easy there. Goes second off of a brief layoff. Last time out, won a group 3, going 6 furlongs. That's the route that she'll go here. Has run reasonably well over soft going in the past. Actually ran the best speed rating of her life over a soft course at Rose Hill last May. A 95 going 5.5 furlongs. Has shown she can go 6 furlongs. Would make a lot of sense. But from a speed figure standpoint, a lot of these horses, to me, Hit Me is exactly the same. And I use number 6, Never Talk, coming out of a Group 1 race. I think potentially getting to the right level, maybe. But JD, you liked her enough to single in a race with a lot of horses that, to me, Hit Me as possible winners.
Yes, I'm putting all my eggs in a closing sprinter, which is not something I would normally be super keen on. But this race not only has a bunch of speed signed out, of course, it's a sprint, JD. There's a lot of speed. No, this is going to be a bunch of horses that want the lead. Najma, the 8, probably the fastest of those horses who you have on your ticket, Andrew. I just think there hasn't been enough speed on in the last couple endeavors for Never Talk. I feel like the weight break that she's getting, the barrier draw is a good one for a horse that wants to settle back. She's just dead center of the field. Basically, Jason Collette can decide where he wants to go and where he wants to put her and get ready for one big sweeping move. She's the fastest turn of foot horse in this field. And I think it's a slam dunk for her. She's the favorite right now, 425, and continues to go down every time I check the odds. I think this horse will be a 7-5, 8-5 favorite in this field. It's a closing sprinter, but this is the most talented horse in the field. And, in terms of speed, yes, there is speed. And I would say the 18 might fall more into the cheap speed category. And we'll see. I mean, obviously, with the 20-cent denomination, that's one of the great things is occasionally you get. You're right, and I think it's an include if you feel like somebody can get a loose lead and match the pace. But I will say, looking at some speed maps and everything, I don't think a lot of people are thinking that your horse is going to be anywhere close to the lead, the 18. So we'll see.
All of them.
Yeah, the speed map that I use the most, and obviously I kind of make my own as well, but always good for reference material, has the 18 as the 14th fastest horse in the field. So
morons, just morons. You get the inside draw with a horse that's shown some early speed. I don't know how far the 18 wants to go, but I think we're going to know right away. Now, Mind you, I'm going to stress this again, and this is not the case with a lot of our tickets, JD. We can both hit this thing. All we need is a cold 20-cent pick 4, 16 with 3, with 1, with 6, and we're home. Everybody wins. They didn't have to run the races. The horses can cool out and run right back again within a week if they want to. We're good. Now, all I ask, though, is in the unlikely but not impossible event that you get knocked out and I'm live going into race number 10, just root for the 18 for me because that may well be a pool sweep if that hits.
Yes, and if you really want to give a shot at sweeping a pool, obviously this being the A track and this being actually with how Sky Racing World's been doing it, the feature has been getting the pick 7. There will be a pick 7. Again, this is a stakes card. There will be a carryover going into, I'm assuming, based on the fields drawn tonight. I'm not expecting anybody to be the lone ticket to hit. It is it's not a jackpot wager per se. It's shared by everybody who hits it. So when it carries over, it just literally means that nobody hit the ticket. So the pick 7, probably expecting a $6,000 or $7,000 carryover, unless it's hit tonight while we're recording for the Friday night card at Royal Randwick. I have a very economical $9.60 ticket. One of the cool things about having the multi-denominations is you can basically make that, a 40-cent denomination and still have a ticket for under $20, or you can just add a horse in the 2 legs that I have singled and you're still under $20. So one of the cool things about the 20-cent denomination, that 20-cent denomination will carry you down into your trifectas as well. your pick threes as well. One of the things that it will also carry over is to your supers. So you don't have a 10-cent super, you have a 20-cent super. So keep that in mind if you're punching in your exotic wagering endeavors on Friday. But exciting for the championships. This is obviously day one, much more to come. And we'll get bits and pieces of this on the show. I know this was our bread and butter last year, but we've got more racing in the States now. So really follow me on Twitter, because these big Fridays, I'm all over it. And obviously follow Sky Racing World as well at Horse Tickets on Twitter at Sky Racing World. Sky Racing World will retweet most of my strong opinions, and sometimes I'm an idiot and they still retweet them anyway. So you can at least laugh at my expense if you want on Friday night from Royal Randwick in New South Wales.
Promise?
Promise.
Okay. I'm going to be tweeting at him a couple of times too, because this is an excellent card. My ticket, less than $20, economical stance with a strong single that I think is going to be very difficult to beat. And hopefully we get a price home to make that pay a little bit. One reminder, the Australian and the American pools separate from one another. So look at those Australian pools. You may be able to find some value in some of those American wagers, even if they pay a little bit differently. Who knows? Sometimes a horse that's, say, 8-1 in Australia winds up being 20 or 30-1 here in the United States. So the more you know, the better shape you're going to be in for a nice score in the land down under. So now we're into our final thoughts segment, and we're on a little bit of a streak here, Matt. I have ended the show with good news 2 consecutive weeks. I'm going to make it a third. So, JD, you go first.
Okay. This is a rare week where I don't have a lot for final thoughts. I was going to spend my final thoughts talking about Australia because it was not on the agenda. But we do have some good news on Twitter. So X-rays negative in the fall at Oaklawn, so everything's good. Nancy, thinking of you, and obviously Rocco Bowen, who went down after the wire in that finale, who obviously very close to the Holtis family. There's been a lot of stories on that's kind of Rocco's second family. So thoughts with Rocco. Hope he recovers well and can get back on the horses shortly, because obviously he's going to be one of those horses that's going to kind of follow the Holtis path as well. Going to be finishing out the run at Oaklawn and then heading up to Indiana Grand. So we wish Rocco Bowen one of the best and one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet in the game. A speedy recovery from his fall today at Oaklawn.
Yeah, indeed. It's never easy to see a fall like that. Happy the X-rays came back negative. Here's hoping he winds up back in the saddle sooner rather than later. So my final thought. Last week, I let slip, or rather my cat let slip, that I had secured a really cool full-time job. And now that papers have been signed and now that stuff is confirmed and I'm confirmed to start on Monday, I can let slip a little bit more about this. You might have seen it on social media if you follow me on Twitter, but I will be the the communications and marketing manager for a nonprofit called Shelter Inc., which is located up here in the Bay Area, and their mission is really cool. They're looking to fight against homelessness in Contra Costa, Solano, and Sacramento counties. Obviously, this is a problem that has not gotten better in the past year with the pandemic, so I'll be able to be in a situation where I can use my skills to be able to do some good for a lot of people. I start on Monday. Really excited to get started and to get back into the grind of working. And I actually get to go into an office for orientation, which is going to be really cool. I get to actually go to work for the first time since the pandemic. So not going to lie, that's going to be pretty cool. Having said that, I'm still going to be around doing all the freelance stuff you expect from me. I will still be doing this show as well as my spots with Gino Bacola on his podcast, spots on other stuff. The writing that I do for Odds Checker US and for Twin Spires, I'll still be doing all of that. I'll still be doing my DRF spot plays as well for their YouTube channel. Still be pretty darn busy. I'll still be pretty darn visible. So if you are hoping that a full-time job outside of racing would make me go away, think again, jerks.
And remember, Saratoga is just a scant however many days away.
3 months, JD. 3 months. I am already in contact with the Pink Sheets editor, Joe Boyle, the hardest working man in show business. If you've ever put together a newspaper or know somebody who has, you know it's a very hard gig. During Saratoga season, he is a sports editor that puts together 3 to 4 different sports sections. Just saying, support your local newspaper. Now, there's going to be a lot of cool things that we're going to be trying out in the Pink Sheet this summer, including an idea that we've been going back and forth on. It's going to be a lot of fun. You're not going to want to miss that. That's coming up in July. Remember, I am the 4-time champion of the Pink Sheet. I won in 2019, won in 2020, going for the three-peat this summer. Unfortunately, I will not be going to Saratoga. I need to conserve my vacation days because I have 4 weddings to go to in a 6-week span from late August through the first week in October. So there's going to be some pretty interesting legwork going on as far as trying to figure out flights and vacation time, especially since I'm starting a new job, but cross that bridge when we get to it.
You know what I have to say to that, Andrew?
What's that?
Holy matrimony.
You need new writers. You really do need new writers. You had a big day last weekend. You need to hire new writers. You need to get them to give you more material. And if for whatever reason that doesn't work, go to one of your kids' joke books and pull something from that. That's usually
I have 30% more Twitter followers than I did last week, and that's a little scary.
It's pretty darn cool, right? That's usually the way it works when you have a big score. I hit a pick 4 at Aqueduct on a very cheap ticket for $800 back in December, and my followers actually went up pretty significantly by my standards. So it's pretty cool when that happens, and it was really cool to see because there's nothing better as a horse player than taking a stand, zigging when other people zag, being right, and being rewarded. So kudos to you for doing that, and I know there's more where that came from. Australia's your wheelhouse. Big couple of days coming up at Royal Randwick. Know you're going to do really well. Horse tickets on Twitter to follow my buddy JD Fox for all of his insights. And you can also take a look at Sky Racing World. They'll be retweeting his stuff, and you can either celebrate or point and laugh, one of the two. It's going to be a lot of fun. Really excited for that. Excited for Saturday at Oaklawn Park with the Arkansas Derby. Remember, 13 races on that card. Excited for Keeneland, too. They've got a really nice card coming up on Saturday. They've also got a grade 1 coming up on Friday with the Maker's Mile. So lots going on. There's a lot to be excited about in the world of racing, and hopefully you've liked what we do. If you do, hit that subscribe button down at the bottom so you don't miss any of our weekly updates.
You said Monmouth and By My Standards in back-to-back sentences, and I had to go on Equibase to see if By My Standards had ever ran at Monmouth. That's the horse mind for you.
Did I say Monmouth anywhere? Did I do that?
Yeah.
Did I do that? Okay.
That's fine. You meant Aqueduct, and you think you said Monmouth. Maybe I don't know. That's what it sounded like.
We've been recording for more than an hour. It's entirely possible I may have said Timbuktu at some point. But regardless, it's been a lot of fun putting this together. Hopefully you like yet another one of our new layouts, courtesy of the graphical wizard, JD Fox. Really excited to put this together. And again, if you like what we do, hit the subscribe button, follow us on Twitter, and make sure that you get involved, regardless of what you like, where you like it. Support your racetracks, support the people that are there. Falls like the one at Oaklawn remind you it's fragile, and there are a lot of people that do a lot for this business and put themselves in a position where if things go bad, a lot can go wrong. So support the people that do a lot for this game. Shout out to Rocco Bowen. Hopefully all is well. Shout out to Nancy Holthus. Hope to have you on the show really soon. For JD Fox, I'm Andrew Champagne. JD, you hit big last week, so I'm going to give you the honor. You hit him with the catchphrase.
Episode 50 in the books. Everybody stay safe, stay off the beaches.
Elliot says hi.